I'm ready for all today, through all the pain, all the way, the fight for all, my life, the love, we're taking it all the way,
So fun fact, if you had Taysom Hill in your lineup, there was a 79% chance you won. It just so happened that I'm in that minority percent where not only did I start Taysom Hill in one league, I started, I think it was Matthew Stafford and Jamar Chase, and I still lost.
What the hell?
It just goes to show, you know what? Sometimes that's how fantasy football be. It just be like that way sometimes. Sometimes, yeah, it be that way sometimes, but lately it be that way all the time. So what is going on, Sleeper and 32-bit Nation? It is your boy Nader alongside Tipp. Tipp on the road today. How you doing, man?
Yo, man, busy, bro. Doing well. Just happy to be on here with you. I hope my mic quality is good, but man, we're gonna rock and roll with this thing because that's the way it be sometimes. Like you said, it be like that.
It'd be that way sometimes. So I mean, right now we're wrapping up for playoff potential and playoff time, and I kind of wanted to start off this episode a little bit on how we kind of left off last episode, because last episode we talked about a lot of the players that, you know, we should just cut ties with.
Yeah.
And I think we should kind of carry that on a little bit in the beginning of this episode, because of course, for the main segment of the episode, I want to talk about a lot of the rookies and a lot of the impact rookies that you're going to want on your roster for those playoff pushes, because it seems like they're having more and more of an impact each week, and keeping them and carrying them into playoffs can carry some huge dividends in those playoff matchups. Now, for those players that you need to cut, 90% rostered CJ Stroud. You just need to be done with him. Like last week. I mean, Monday night was his golden moment to hang your hat on and be like, see, this is what he does. He's got Nico Collins back. He's going against a subpar team, subpar defense. And you know what? This is where he gets the ball rolling, momentum going. And he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. They had the run game going. Offensive line still weak. Nico Collins was back. He had everything that he could have had in order to have a successful offense in a fantasy game. Didn't have it. And you mean, you know what? Stephon Diggs ain't coming back this year. The offensive line isn't getting better. And he already has the best weapons he's going to have all year. If he can't get it going now, he's not going to. And all you're going to be doing is putting that name brand value in your starting lineup and then sitting there confused why he doesn't perform. Don't bother with it anymore.
Nader, I can't get with dropping CJ Stroud. I get what you're saying, but I just can't get with dropping him, because chances are, if you're in a 1 QB league, that is your QB. Like, that is the guy that you drafted. You probably drafted, like I did in one league, thinking that this guy was going to be the de facto number one guy. He was not going to have to worry. You weren't going to have to worry about subbing him in, a la like a Jalen Hurts, a Josh Allen. Maybe not to that extent, because you knew you weren't going to get the rushing upside, but you just had him locked in and loaded. Like, he was ready to go. The only thing that was going to derail this would have been the injuries to the wide receiver, which we had. And, you know, now, for instance, the shambles on the offensive line. I thought the offensive line was going to get better. This offensive line, you're right, has gotten worse. On the flip side of that, Joe Mixon, wow, like stud, like bona fide stud. And the thing is, this team has all of the offensive talent. They don't necessarily have the best play calling or play designs, but man, I can't get with dropping him. But you're freaking right. Like, what the hell? Like, who else would you? Anthony Richardson is somebody, if he's on the waiver, I would rather have than CJ Stroud. Where do we draw the line? I have a situation that I have CJ Stroud and Aaron Rodgers. And right now I've been playing matchup based, situational games. Last week, though, I did play Aaron Rodgers because I felt like it was a Sunday during the game or during the day game. Aaron Rodgers couldn't have played as bad as he did against Arizona. I mean, he didn't do great, but there's an easier matchup, I thought, going against the Colts. I don't know what to do with these two guys, man. I'm stuck in purgatory with these quarterbacks. I don't know what to do with them. And another thing, too, is like, all right, Sam Darnold or CJ Stroud. Sam Darnold came on hot. He's kind of cooled off since then. I don't know what to do with CJ Stroud. I just can't say drop him yet. But you're done with him, huh?
I mean, in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, he's posted over 20 points this year once. Once. You know how hard it is to do it just once? like Anthony Richardson has more than him, and he's only played a quarter of the time compared to CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Like it's I don't know. Like I can't sit there and justify it. Like right now, I'm looking at the waivers in one of my leagues. I see Geno Smith in there. Anthony Richardson's also in there. For fun, Kirk Cousins is also in there, but he's on a bye week. Honestly, I would probably start Kirk Cousins. And I'd pick up and like hold Kirk Cousins. Aaron Rodgers is also on there, but he's on a bye. Caleb Williams is on there. And after that, the wide receiver, the quarterback room significantly dwindles. But those are the couple options that I would go over CJ Stroud with at the moment.
So you were talking about CJ Stroud, obviously, and we were talking about the other quarterback, Anthony Richardson. Look, you're right, man. I don't the Kirk Cousins thing. Yes, you can't do it this week, but that could be something that they figure out over this bye week, because that loss that they had this past week to Denver was terrible, and Denver consequently plays another team another quarterback that I like in Jameis Winston this week, I believe. And look, if Jameis Winston's out there, you probably want to sit tight. But yeah, maybe. Are you considering Jameis Winston over CJ Stroud?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. He might throw a couple interceptions, but he throw a couple touchdowns. I'd also right now 49% owned. We're going to talk about him later in the episode, but Bo Nix, definitely start him over. Bo Nix definitely over CJ Stroud.
He's looking like a superstar, dude.
He's looking good right now.
He is looking really good. Yeah, you gotta tip your hat to it, because I wasn't on board with it. I thought that Bo Nix would be okay, but I thought it was going to be more of a Jaden Daniels thing. I understand that he's dealing with the rib injury. He's toughed it out, played really well, other than these last 2 weeks where he's kind of crapped the bed. But yeah, I get it. I think Bo Nix, though, he is ascending big time.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford's 57% owned. I'm checking Yahoo leagues, by the way. Sam Darnold 68, Russell Wilson 47, Drake May 14. I probably wouldn't start Drake May over him, but
yeah. What about Justin Herbert? What's Justin Herbert?
Justin Herbert.
I like Justin Herbert a lot.
Oh yeah, I do too. Herbert. I'm looking for him. Herbert.
Because I know a couple of weeks,
79% owned.
70. Okay, so he has climbed up, because a couple of weeks ago, not necessarily on Yahoo, but in Sleeper, he was sitting at like 43, 48%, somewhere around there. And I was just like, oh my God, you got to pick this guy up, because this offense is starting to open up and it's starting to do some really cool things.
Yeah, Tua 68, if I didn't say it earlier.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's probably where I would go with that, especially on 1 QB leagues.
Right.
But yeah, CJ, I don't, he's just tough to trust. I don't see why you would. But all right, go for it. You're now.
Yeah, CJ is tough to go. I just think that, again, if you can't get any of those quarterbacks, which we talked about, maybe 10 quarterbacks just right now. So chances are one of those guys is probably still on the waiver, unless you're in a 2 QB league. You're in a 2 QB league, you're screwed. Because, I mean,
you're
what are
stuck
you going to do? Yeah, what are you gonna do? Hopefully you drafted 3 quarterbacks, but again, how many people out there had C.J. Stroud and probably another quarterback? Now, when you do a 2 QB league, you're supposed to always have a third quarterback for bye week purposes, or in case somebody gets injured. So hopefully you took your chance on, like for instance, I know in the Scott Fishbowl league, right? I didn't have C.J. Stroud, but what I did have is I had Trevor Lawrence. I had Aaron Rodgers because, again, I thought Aaron Rodgers was going to have a way better year than what he's doing. And then I just took a flyer on Sam Darnold because not shortly, either after or before the Scott Fishbowl draft that I did, JJ McCarthy was out. So I just was like, well, shit, like might as well just take a flyer on Sam Darnold. And look, Sam Darnold ended up starting, and I think it was before the injury. So I was like, Sam Darnold ended up starting, and I got a good a good player out of that. He's helped me win a couple of weeks. But yeah, man, it's just really tough with the CJ Stroud situation. If you are an owner, good luck. It's just right. That last night was the opportunity. That was the team that you go against. We understand the offensive line issues, but you're going against Dallas, an inferior team. Joe Mixon had 3 touchdowns. You would have wished that one of those touchdowns could have gone to C.J. Stroud. Hell, maybe even 2 of those touchdowns. But C.J. Stroud, again, 250 plus yards, interception, really didn't do anything for you. He had a nice 22 yard run, but other than that, it didn't really do anything for you, and he hasn't been doing anything for you. And I don't know what else to say other than, if it's a dynasty, what do we do at this point with CJ Stroud? I mean, you kind of have to sit and wait, but what are you doing with him if you're in a dynasty league?
Oh no, you're holding on to him. I still expect him to have a decent future. It's just right now, until they get the offensive line situated. Then I can't not this year sit there and reliably put him in my lineup.
Yeah.
All right, you got somebody?
Another person that I am done with. I'm starting to look at Devonta Smith here. He just hasn't been getting it done here lately, and this offense is not getting it done. It's almost similar to the situation with CJ Stroud with Jalen Hurts. The only good thing about Jalen Hurts right now is he's still getting you the rushing yardage. He's still getting you those rushing touchdowns. But as far as what I thought that this offense was going to look like, especially bringing in Saquon Barkley, I thought that this offense was going to open up even more. And Devonta Smith lately has been, I would not recommend dropping him, but he might be a player if you still have trade windows open. Might be a guy that I'm looking to get off the team if it's a redraft league. Dynasty, I think I'll hold on to him. But here of late, man, Devonta Smith hasn't really looked like the guy that I think I thought he could have been. Let's see, one more. I mean, Tyler Lockett hasn't done much of anything all year. I kind of think that that's an easy one to talk about. We could take him off. But another one, too, that I was looking at, Aaron Jones, man. Aaron Jones really, it's looked like he hit a wall here as of late. He's 29, almost 30. He's right around that age. So it looks like he's hit some type of wall. They're bringing in Cam Akers. They got Ty Chandler as well. So Aaron Jones might be one of those guys where I'm just like, what have you been doing for me lately? I needed you. You haven't done much. You've been a little banged up. I get it. But Aaron Jones might be that other guy too. That again, I'm not dropping. We're not necessarily dropping this guy. Unlike we talked about C.J. Stroud and Nader. You possibly want to drop him, or some of the guys we talked about like last week with Deontay Johnson. You got to drop Deontay Johnson at this point. It's not going to happen this year. If you're in a dynasty, keep a hold on to him. It might happen next year, but right now you can't play this guy. But yeah, Aaron Jones might be the other guy that I'm looking at to possibly get off my squad.
I mean, Deontay Johnson, like you mentioned, 73% rostered, and right now he's ran 15 routes so far, compared to Lamar's 94 dropbacks. I don't understand the trade. I don't understand what happened. It sucks because Deontay Johnson was a solid wide receiver too when he was on the Carolina Panthers. Raheem Mostert, Raheem Mostert, 64% owned. He hasn't played more than 25% of the team snaps since week 8. So he Jalen Wright right now is currently playing more than him. There currently seems like they're phasing Raheem Mostert out of the offense. That
Right.
sucks. I like him a lot, but like you mentioned, Tyler Lockett 66% on Jackson Smith and Jigba. I know I roasted you and a unknown
Oh,
person for trading Devontae Adams for Smith and Jigba, but right now actually Jigba is winning that trade. He's
yes, he
currently in
is.
full point PPR. He's wide receiver 10.
Yes, he is.
He is a PPR monster, and he's currently developing into what Tyler Lockett was
right.
in that offense a handful of years ago in his prime.
And the Seahawks pass the most out of any team in the NFL. That is what they do. They pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball. At one point, they were averaging per game over 41 pass attempts per game. So that team, that's what they do. They love to throw the ball. They love to get the ball down the field. They've got really good weapons at wide receiver. So hey, why not? But yeah, I look. I try to tell you guys. I told you it was a fair trade than what it seemed like, because we were all looking at what Devontae Adams has done previously. I had no idea that Devontae Adams was going to be like this. I had no idea that when he was to reunite with Aaron Rodgers, he was going to look like that, like what we've been seeing, old, both of them. But that's the thing. That's the thing about fantasy football. I was going after a guy that I've been wanting. I wanted Devontae Adams this season. I thought that he would stay a Raider. But I knew that if he was to leave the Raiders, it was most likely going to be reuniting with his friend Aaron Rodgers, which would have been good, I thought, right? It would have been something good for both of them. But nope, I was wrong.
I mean, it hasn't been a disaster for the Jets. I mean, he's put up some decent games. He's put up some solid numbers, respectable projections, and solid outputs, but it hasn't been, oh my God, mind blowing numbers. Right. Now, somebody else, he's on the hot seat. I'm not saying drop him. So Jaden Daniels, he was a top 5 fantasy QB in the first 3 of his 4 games.
Right.
Over his last 7, he hasn't logged a single top 10 finish.
Yeah, I think a little bit of that was some of the defenses he's played. I mean, he went against the Steelers. He went against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. Those are really 2 top-notch pass defenses, pass rushing teams. Though that in and of itself was tough for Jaden Daniels. He's still a rookie. We're over here anointing him the next thing, but he's still a rookie. And when you go against, especially a team that's coached by Mike Tomlin, they're going to throw everything at the rookie that they possibly can. And the other thing, the Philadelphia Eagles, they're just an overpowering team, especially in the front. And their back end's been playing really nice. So I think he's had a really couple of bad games. And then you factor in the fact that, he is dealing with the rib injury. They really haven't come out and said, because he actually played through the rib injury. And before those 2 games, when he did the Hail Mary game, that was against another tough defense, the Chicago Bears. So I think you still got to roll out there with him, because of the rushing upside that he gives. But you also have to understand that he's a rookie. He's going to have these dud games. Hopefully when they come back, they figure it out. They get it going. But they also need more weapons there. Austin Eckler has been their second pass catcher as of late. I mean, you could sprinkle in Zach Ertz as well, but as of late, Austin Eckler has been the guy helping them get passes or catches.
I mean, it may be the I don't even know how to say his name, Cliff
Kingsbury
offense, how it always starts off really, really hot and then starts to tail off at the end of the year. You know what? Maybe we thought it was just Kyler Murray when he was on the Cardinals, but maybe it's just that offense in general. Only time will tell. And the way Kyler Murray's playing, you know what? It might back that up in that aspect. So also somebody to talk about real fast, Nick Chubb. And the fact that he is becoming very one-dimensional as a rusher and not a pass catcher. I mean, he played 35% of the snaps last week against New Orleans. And the week before that, after their bye, he only played 30% of the snaps against the Chargers. I know those are game script dependent games. And if they take an early deficit, that's it. They're not running the ball. And especially with a gunslinger as Winston is, he's going to be consistently finding negative game scripts. And if you look at the past or the next handful of weeks, they played Pittsburgh Thursday night, Denver, Pittsburgh again, Kansas City. Those are 4 horrendous game scripts lined up for him, to the point where it's like, okay, I can't start him. I'm holding on to him, but he's not quite droppable. It's hard to sit here and say, oh, just drop him. But I couldn't justify starting him unless your other RBs get hurt, or you're just right now suffering through a terrible bye week, as you know, right now Breece Hall is gone and so on and so forth. But he's somebody to watch and to sit there and say and ask yourself, okay, what's his realistic outcome?
Yeah. Oof. First of all, I'm a huge Breece Hall fan, right? I'm happy that you brought his name up, because I am a big, that the first article I wrote was on Breece Hall. I thought him coming out of college, I thought he was going to be just a monster, and his first season in the league, he proved to be that. Then he had the ACL injury. He came back last year, did actually really well with it. You know, they managed his touches, especially at the beginning of the season. This was the year I was like, all right, Aaron Rodgers is back. He's a pass catching running back. He's, you know, maybe not as they don't maybe have the same chemistry as him and Aaron Jones did, Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones did in Green Bay. But Breece Hall is like legit, right?
Oh yeah.
So this whole situation with him and them bringing in Braylon Allen, which I know he's a beast as well, and I was like, okay, why would you do that? Oh, maybe you want to run the ball some more. They haven't been running the ball. You know, I had a bet with my friend Greg Kellogg a couple of weeks ago with 20. He said that the Jets will have 25 carries in that game that they played. And I said, no, they're not. They haven't averaged 20. They've only averaged 21 carries for the whole season. And they've got these 2 studs at running back, and they're not running the ball. I was like, there's no way they're going to have 25 touches. So this whole thing with Breece Hall has been just very, 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 it makes me cringe, because this offense has so much potential if they start to run the ball. We've seen if they start to run the ball, they open up things for the passing game, right? But they're just not getting to it, man. It sucks. It as a Breece Hall manager, you kind of have to deal with it, because you spent a top 4, top 5 pick on him, most likely, especially in redraft. And now you're sitting there like, what the hell? Like, why do I have to deal with this from a healthy running back who has been healthy for the majority of the year, and this offense is just inept? What's up with that? So
yeah, it's definitely a frustrating process if you do own Breece Hall. I mean, granted, he had a phenomenal game last week, but I mean, he had to make it happen on his own. It wasn't from the fact that they were feeding him the football, giving him his touches and opportunities. Unlike Travis Etienne. He's going to be the last one we talk about before we move on, just because I don't want to talk about people like this anymore. I want to talk about the positives. I mean, he hasn't had double digits scored in half-point PPR since week 3. He hasn't even scored more than 5 half-point PPR points since week 5. Now, of course, you know, he's missed a little bit due to injury and all that good stuff. But the fact that, you know what, right now, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis is on the IR, Bigsby might be hurt. They're coming off the bye. Trevor Lawrence should be coming back too. If he can't sit there and put up some good fantasy football potential in the next upcoming weeks, when all the stars are aligning for him to get more touches, more carries, more receptions, opportunities, all right, you know what? He's sitting on the bench. I mean, he's been on my bench in a couple of leagues for the past handful, even when healthy. It's going to stay that way for the foreseeable future if he doesn't get his shit together.
Yeah, I mean, when I originally came up with the list of people that I wanted to get off my team, Travis Etienne was on there. And then I was like, you know, and some people were like, most people were agreeing with me. The ones that they didn't agree with me on was Tank Dell. And we're seeing Tank Dell is just, it's not only him, it's also his quarterback too. But with the Travis Etienne thing, this is a head scratcher for me. He's so talented. He's uber talented. Can catch the ball out of the backfield. Doesn't need much. Like when I say much, doesn't need a really great offensive line to get it going. He's a pretty fast player. But he just has had no burst this year. He is not catching the ball. He's not having opportunity. Tank Bigsby was taking some opportunities away from him. Now Tank Bigsby is getting banged up. It's really bad with Travis Etienne. I hate to say it, but if Bigsby is definitely out, you have to start it because of the opportunities. But it's like, just really, like you said, you got to temper your expectations because you're not going to get anything from him most likely. And this offense sucks.
Right now it does. It does, absolutely. So right now, before we head to the main segment of the episode, I got some over-unders for you. Now,
Right.
do you happen to know or remember the
last
week
week
we had last week?
Yeah, last week I believe was the one that we disagreed on was it, I think it was Jawan Jennings, and I think you won that one. It was his over on yards. I believe that was the one that we disagreed on. I didn't think he was going to do anything because I was high on Ricky Pearsall, which Ricky Pearsall did absolutely nothing.
He didn't do anything.
So I think you won on that one. I think the other ones we all agreed on. We did talk about Josh Allen, I believe. His rushing was 33.5. And we both agreed on that. Unlike my friend Greg Kellogg, who I do a show with, he disagreed with me, but I believe both of us agreed on that one.
Yeah. He had, of course, 55. That was a good one right there.
Yeah.
All right. So now this week we got a couple more interesting ones. I'm going to start it off with the homie Bowen Nix. Hot topic of discussion. We're going to be talking about him later on in the episode, so it's only fitting to talk about his over-under. Right now, 217 and a half passing yards against the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm going over too.
Yeah, I'm going over.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I'm going to go over on this one. I think that it's going to be a running game for him too. So it could be one of those situations where he gets the yardage or gets close to that yardage pretty quick in the game, and then they're running the ball towards the end. But then again, you can see the Raiders. Look, he's still a rookie, right? And he had a hell of a game this last game, right? 4 touchdowns. This is tight, but I'm still. What is it? You said 217?
217 and a half.
I'm gonna go the over. I don't think it's much more. I think it's probably 225, 230. But yeah, I'm gonna go the over just because I don't think they're gonna need him as much. Because that defense is playing lights out. The Raiders, sorry guys, we are in shambles. So yeah, I think you go the over just a little bit. That's a good number to go over.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna rock the over on this one as well. Now, speaking of disappointment, Travis Kelce.
Oh my God.
So, I mean, last week against Buffalo, I expected him to not have the best game ever. I didn't expect him to have 2 receptions for 8 yards. A nice 2.8. Nice 2.8 fantasy day. Not bad. I like it. I like seeing it because I feel like all the time, every one of my leagues, I'm going against Travis Kelce. So the fact that he's always struggling makes me very happy. That being said, against Carolina, 58 and a half receiving yards.
I'm taking the over on this one. I think this is a big smash hit. This is one of those games I feel like that like we saw Detroit beat the crap out of the Jags.
Ooh.
I don't think that the Chiefs have that in them, but I think that they dog walked the Carolina Panthers this week. I think that it's probably going to be something along the lines of whatever the over under is, whatever the differential in points is. I'm taking that. So if it's let's say if it's a 15 point for in favor of Kansas City, I'm taking the over. I think that they're going to blow them out by 20, 25 points. I think it's going to be a 30-6 game, something like that. It's not going to be a 50 burger or anything like that, but I think a 30-6 game. I think Kansas City's pissed off that they lost. They were really, they won't say this, they won't admit this, but I think they really wanted to be undefeated. I think they really wanted that. That was one of their things that they were looking for going into this season. Obviously, the ultimate prize is what they want, but I think they really wanted to prove to everybody that we can win playing really great defense and playing, Patrick Mahomes can be I'm not even going to say the word game manager, but he can be a notch above that. And we're still going to win the game with the run game and great defense. I think they beat up on this Carolina Panthers team. Carolina gives up the most points to tight ends. Second, oddly enough, second to the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you look, Sanders, maybe take a look at him as well at DFS. But I think that you go ahead and with Travis Kelce, I'm going over on 58 or 53.
I'm gonna hit the over
or
on
58.
that as well.
58,
Yeah, I'm hitting the over as well. If he can't do it, he might be on the cut list, honestly. Like,
Noah Gray has been a thorn in his side, and he's been a thorn in a lot of fantasy managers' sides as well that have Travis Kelce, because you can't pick up Noah Gray and start him. But what I will say is, I feel like Noah Gray is a guy, if you're in a dynasty league, and I did this in a couple of my dynasty leagues, I picked up Noah Gray as the tight end because, Patrick Mahomes has not hit 30 yet. Travis Kelce is about to be 30, 36, 35, 36, whatever. He is on the way out. And look, I will say this. If they win the Super Bowl again this year, then Travis Kelce will retire. I believe it. I think he's going to retire because what else do you need to prove? You have arguably one of the better tight ends in the league, if not the best tight end to ever play the game. I think he's done. And then Noah Gray will be that guy, the predecessor. And that's where you go out there. And I would recommend everybody who has Travis Kelce, hell, if you don't even have Travis Kelce on your team, but you want to have a really good tight end for a couple of years to come after Travis Kelce's gone, Noah Gray is your guy.
Yeah. I'm going to have to agree with that one for the distant future. So real fast before we go over some more over and unders, I made a side note to talk about this, especially when we were talking about Nick Chubb. I completely forgot to. We got distracted. But I wanted to talk about the pass catchers on the Browns. This is a complete side note, but I felt like it was an important note to talk about as a talking point because, of course, these players, they're going to be important down the stretch, especially for playoff season.
Right.
And right now, how viable and recommended you should be going out and trying to get them if they aren't already. But like, for example, any pass catcher right now on the Browns should be looked at and picked up. Like, for example, Jerry Jeudy in Yahoo Leagues, 52% owned. Since Jameis Winston has took over the reins, he has been 17.8 half-point PPR points. Or full point PPR, 17.8 so far he's been averaging. It's a phenomenal number for somebody that's 52% owned. Tillman is averaging 18.7 yards per game, and he's probably a little bit more owned, 65% owned in Yahoo Leagues. Somebody everybody should be looking at. And then of course Elijah Moore, somebody who has been kind of disappointing for the most of his career. I mean, he isn't averaging as much. He's averaging 13.6. He is currently 8% rostered. 8% rostered. And over the past, 3 weeks, he's been averaging 13.6. And then, of course, we got to go to the tight end and Njoku, right? I mean, basically at this point, he's been a must-start type of player, averaging 14 points per game since Jameis Winston's taken. I mean, right now, these are all players that you must look at and try to pick up if they are currently on the waiver wire. Now, unfortunately, this episode is going to air after waivers clear, but if they haven't yet, got to go get those guys. But all right, closing notes, Tip, before we move on to back to over-unders.
No, that's perfect what you said. I agree with it wholeheartedly. Jameis Winston makes that team better from an offensive standpoint, from the receiver standpoint. Look, before Deshaun Watson got injured, Deshaun Watson hadn't even thrown for 200 yards in one game yet. And Jameis Winston comes in immediately and throws for like 300 yards the following game that he started. And so he gives them the best opportunity to win right now, although they're still not winning, but he gives them that best opportunity, kind of like what I thought about Joe Flacco, but then Joe Flacco did what Joe Flacco does, and now you see Anthony Richardson. But you said it perfectly fine, man. It was great.
There we go. Now back to the over-unders. Devon A-Chain.
Oh, okay, this is a good one.
65.5 rushing yards.
They're playing the Patriots, correct?
Yes. So the first time they played the Patriots, I think he got hurt. He had 3 carries for 18 yards.
Yeah. I do. What's the over under again? 60 what?
65.5.
I think it's under because I feel like he's gonna get run in the passing game too. So I think he goes slightly under that. But wait, is it total or rushing? I'm sorry.
Rushing.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm going under on the rushing.
I'm gonna go with the over on this one.
Okay.
I think he's got it in him, especially with Mostert not getting as many touches. I think this is his running back room to carry as long as he gets his touches, which is probably around 15. He'll probably get over that. Yeah, right now. Hold on, let me do some math. Calculator. Let me do some quick maths. I'm trying to do the quick maths. Like, okay, if you get 15 touches, right? 65 divided by 15, right? So he needs 4 yards per carry. 4.333333333333 yards per carry in order to get that. To me, that's
could definitely do that. That's definitely doable. I'm still gonna take the under just because I don't think where are they playing? Are they playing in Miami?
I think at New England.
Yeah,
no. I think it's in Miami. It's in
Miami. Okay. I'm still going to take the under. I think that it might be Jalen Wright or maybe Mostert too, who kind of gets some of that garbage time because they want to preserve. Because look, I'll tell you one thing about Miami. Miami still has a shot, not to win this division, obviously, but they have a shot. They're in the hunt for the wild card or to get into the playoffs. And if they start to get that shot in the arm that they have already gotten, if they continue to go that route, then what'll happen is you'll start to see them scale down Devon Achane's work because they're going to need him in the playoffs. Now, here's the thing about Miami, right? Most likely they're going to have to play in a cold weather city, so they're going to get screwed. Having to play in a cold weather unless there's a dome, play in a cold weather city, and Devon Achane and that run game is not going to get anything done. But they're looking to preserve him because he's not a big back. He's elusive. He's fast. He's great at pass catching wise. But again, he's not that big of a guy. So sometimes Jalen Wright, who is a bigger guy, Raheem Mostert, who is a bigger guy, if they're running away with this game, if they're winning pretty handedly, they might start to go away from Devon Achane and start to give these other guys some touches to preserve him. That's my thought process in this one. So that's why I'm going to under. But I got you at the over.
All righty. Last but not least, James Conner. I'm going to go with that one. James Conner, 63.5 rushing yards.
Under? Yes. And we're going to talk a little bit about Trey Benson in the rookie segment that we have for you guys. But look, James Conner, what did he have per carry? Not last week because they were on bye, but the previous week before that, he had less than 2 yards per carry. Very inefficient. He looks old again. James Conner's 30 years old, everybody. Like, he's had a lot of miles on his legs. And not only that, he does get banged up from time to time. He's got some injury history too. I think I'm not going to say he's done. I'm not saying that because that bye week came at a perfect time for him. Because now he can kind of rest up and get, those 30-year-old legs, get him going. But again, I'm going the under because I really like what Trey Benson's been doing in this offense. But we'll talk about him in a sec. So I'm going the under.
So I'm still going to go the over on this one.
Okay.
I like his matchup against Seattle. He's been running well. Did he play Seattle already? No, this is the first time they play Seattle. No, I'm still going to go the over on this one.
Okay, James Conner. What was the number again?
63.5.
All right. Tip under. Nader over. Okay, got it.
There we go. All right, so we got the final push coming on in this year. This is where, you kind of figured out, okay, I have a realistic chance to make playoffs. Oh, I need to make a little bit of a playoff push, or I'm in the driver's seat setting up pretty ready to prepare for playoffs. And the rookies have a big influence on how ready and how good your team looks moving into the playoffs. And of course, I want to talk about a handful of players that you're going to want to look for and stashing or even playing on your roster when it comes to that playoff time. So Mr. Tipp, do you want to lead the way?
Yeah, look, we just talked about his teammate, so let's go ahead and talk about Trey Benson. Look, everyone, Trey Benson, I feel like this could be a moment where, yes, the bye week came at a perfect opportunity for James Conner to get those legs, some rest. But it also could be an opportunity for these coaches and this coaching staff to notice what Trey Benson has done these last two games, particularly the game before the bye week, where he went 12 touches, averaged over 7.2 yards per touch, which is really good. And he was very efficient with those catches. He caught 2 for 2, 25 yards. Didn't get it in the end zone, but he was running effectively. He was running hard. I looked at the tape. He was running more north and south with his 6'1", 225 frame. He was not doing that, dancing around thing that he was doing at the beginning of the season. More assertive. I think this is the thing, though. He only had around a 22% snap count, which that is a little bit alarming. But when you're that effective and that 22% snap count and you're that effective, I think that the coaching staff is like, maybe we got something in here. Maybe we need to rest James Conner. We're in the first in the division. We're going to need James Conner at the end of the season because he is a bruising running back. We're going to need somebody who's a bruiser. Both of them are bruising running backs now, it seems like. Trey Benson is just fast. He can catch the ball, just like James Conner can catch the ball too. James Conner is not fast, but not as fast as Trey Benson. But I feel like this is going to be a situation going forward where it's going to be a split backfield. It's definitely going to be that. But I think it's going to be closer. I think that Trey Benson is going to get closer to that 40% going forward. And look, if James Conner gets banged up, now you got a bona fide stud. I mean, yes, you have Amari DiMercado, but you got a bona fide stud with Trey Benson there. So I'm gonna say this. I think if Trey Benson is out there on the waiver wire, this is a guy that you got to get. We understand that. Look, the waivers will be open by the time this show is aired. That's fine. Still go out there and look, because the last time I saw, Trey Benson was only 31% rostered in Sleeper. I'm not sure what he is in Yahoo. Nader, maybe you can tell me, but I will say this, man. I really like the kid. I think that he has an opportunity. I like this offense. I think that he really can start to make a name for himself going forward.
Yeah, Trey Benson is 22% owned in Yahoo leagues. Don't get it twisted with Treylon Burks. That one wide receiver on Tennessee Titans. I don't even know what ever happened to him. What happened to that guy? God. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we already talked about Bo Nix for a little bit.
Yeah.
But as somebody that's 49% owned and who's posted the last handful of weeks of fantasy points from week 5, 23, 21, 14, 29, 18, 16, 28, now goes against Las Vegas, Cleveland, and then unfortunate bye week in week 14. But then week 15, he goes against Indianapolis, and championship weekend is against Cincy. He's got a solid schedule going on. Yeah. Solid schedule to go on and something to really look forward to. I mean, he's got rushing potential. He's had over, 5 games was over 30-yard rushing yards. He has 4 rushing touchdowns, multiple games with multiple passing touchdowns. 4 of them, a handful of games, 2 of them with more than 2 passing touchdowns, and 3 and 4. It looks like he has command of his offense. They're starting to trust him more to air the ball down the field. He's got good pass catchers, solid running game, and a good coaching staff with a solid defense. I really like having a solid defense with a quarterback because it allows him to play relaxed football, knowing that he's going to have his chances. He's going to have turnovers in solid position. He's going to have, in case he's not playing so well in the beginning, solid defense to keep him in the game to the point where, he just has to have a couple good drives. And of course, that's going to put the fantasy production up. That's going to put the team in the W column. And Bo Nix is that guy that I'm starting every week.
Yeah, you at this point you have to. It looks like another pretty good matchup this week against the Raiders, like we talked about. Yeah, you have to start him at this point. He does have good pass catchers. He even has a couple of good pass catchers in the backfield. So yeah, I think you're right on this one, man. Good defense, mastered or partnered up with that. This Broncos team is going to be nice. We're going to stick in the same division, the AFC West. Uh, Lad McConkey.
Oh, who's going to be talked about? Yep.
Yeah, I know that he's most likely rostered in your league already. But if you have an opportunity, especially in redraft dynasty, forget about it. You're probably not going to get this kid, and if you do, you're going to have to pay a heavy price for him. But if you're in a redraft league and you got a guy who has, let's say they have Lad McConkey, most likely if you have, like I have Lad McConkey in one league. Well, I've got 4 wide receivers that are studs that are in front of him that are playing studly. 2 of them I drafted as studs. The other 2 have just been having a phenomenal year. So Lad McConkey is just sometimes sitting on my bench. Like I had to bench him this past week because everybody had favorable matchups. Everybody did really well. And like he's just sitting there. So if you have a situation where the Lad McConkey manager is just not able to play him like I am, you might want to go and talk to that person and get this guy on your team. This offense has opened up. It's a good offense. They're another good defense, very good play calling. I love what I've seen from Lad McConkey, and only the sky is the limit from here on out. I see something similar to what we saw. Do you remember the year that Amon-Ra St. Brown was a rookie and everybody was kind of talking about him, but not like, and then all of a sudden the playoffs, he just went off on everybody and actually won people leagues his rookie year. I'm not going to say that Lad McConkey is going to do that, but I have this vision that he is going to be something similar to what Amon-Ra St. Brown did his rookie year.
I was going to talk about Lad McConkey later on in the episode as well. Since you brought it up, we might as well talk about it now. I mean, realistically, who else are they going to throw the ball to? I mean, ever since the Chargers bye week, I mean, it's no coincidence that Justin Herbert's been airing it out more, and Lad McConkey has been a influence on why they're airing it out so much. And because of that, you know, his fantasy production shows it, and so does Justin Herbert's fantasy production shows it. And the more practice they get, the more chemistry they're able to build, the stronger this chemistry duo is going to become. Now, I will say he does look like a bobblehead with his helmet looking a lot bigger than him when he's running down the field, almost like he has one of those I don't know, concussion protector helmet that, you know, covers on, but you know, he doesn't. It's just, I don't know, it's not much of a size difference between his body and that helmet, but I mean, hey, keep putting up, you know, 10 plus fantasy points a game. You know what? I don't really care.
Right.
So I got Roma Dunze, another rookie wide receiver, as somebody that, you know what, I kind of want on my roster. Now, unfortunately, Lad McConkey, even in Yahoo, he is 80% owned in redraft leagues. Roma Dunze is 64% owned, which is why I'm like, all right, you can maybe get him too. Besides the favorable matchups, you know, surprisingly, Detroit allows seventh most points to wide receivers. Minnesota, out of all teams, is third. And then now San Francisco is kind of creeping up on that one. Now, Roma Dunze hasn't played less than 80% of the snaps since, you know what, I'll look that up for you, since week 8, and that was 75% of the snaps. His lowest ever was 75% of the snaps, which was week 8. He's only had 3 weeks, less than 5 targets. And one of them was 5 targets. So I'm almost like cheating myself on that statistic. He's starting to inch in on the importance of this offense, and it's no coincidence that the games they win, he's an important part of that offense. Now, it would be even more important if they were able to make that game-winning kick against Green Bay, where on that final drive, he had 35 of those yards. So it's no coincidence that whenever he does well, they win. And he's just consistently gaining a little bit more confidence in that offense.
Yeah, no, another good one. I was concerned about this passing game in general because you've got DJ Moore, who's been for the most part, a disappointment. You got Keenan Allen, who's been banged up, injured. He's older. He's been a disappointment. And Roma Dunze and Caleb Williams are starting to find a chemistry, man. It's starting to come into fruition. It's starting to look really good. Especially, look, if you're in a dynasty league, you should be very happy because this offense should get better as time goes. Once they find well, look, Thomas Brown didn't do bad last week either as far as his play calling goes. They had a mental lapse at the end of the game there, and then he got the block punt, or block field goal. But yeah, I think that is a good call as well, man. I like the Roma Dunze. I wasn't in favor of it, earlier in the season because I just didn't think he was going to get his, but he's showing that he is that stud that they got from Washington.
There we go. Who's your guy?
All right, this is my last one. This is a deep dart throw, man. It's Dylan Labe of the Raiders, and here's the reason. Look, we ain't going nowhere. Like we're not going anywhere, bro. Like at the end of it all, we are a bottom feeding team. We are about to start figuring out what the future is going to be. Are we going to keep Coach AP? Are we not going to keep Coach AP? Are we going to try to go for this top, a number one pick or a top pick? I think we are. Alexander Madison got banged up. Another thing, Zamir White really hasn't done much of anything. I watched some film. I didn't really know a lot about Dylan Labe, coming from New Hampshire, because I'll be honest, I haven't really watched a lot of New Hampshire tape, but our games. But when I did watch the tape, I was like, oh, okay, this guy's got a little twitch to him. He catches the ball very well. A high energy player. I think that he could be one of those players that flash a little bit towards the end of the season, especially when we're just tanking it in. We just don't, you want to get some pass catching or catching from the running back side. I think he could be a really good spot flex for you. I'm not going to sit here and say that he would be a league winner. That is not the case. But, if some things do turn or, go in his favor with injuries, I know you still have Amir Abdullah there. I really like Dylan Labe a lot. So I think that he is a guy. I got him in the Scott Fish Bowl. I've been holding on to him for the whole season. I've been wanting to drop him, and I told myself, nope, keep a hold of him because he's going to come, put it together at some point. He had a really bad game. I think he had a bad fumble a couple of weeks ago. But if he can clean that up, I think Dylan Labe would be a guy that I would look at.
Yeah, I'm going to fully agree with you on that one. Now, they're all players definitely worth stashing on your roster. I'm going to list a handful of them right now just to make sure that we go over a majority of the players. Like, for example, Keon Coleman, who's been hurt for the past couple of weeks. If he's able to come back, he has been playing a very well football without even the touchdowns to represent it, but he has the yards. The last two games before he got hurt, he had posted over 100 yards receiving in both of those matchups. Xavier Legette, I think he's only 28% owned. Carolina, they just need somebody to throw the football to, and why not the rookie wide receiver who has been playing pretty well in the past handful of weeks. Unfortunately, he draws the Kansas City Chiefs as this matchup. It might not be a good time to put him in your starting lineup, but definitely a good time to put him on your roster. Jalen McMillan. Yeah, go ahead.
I love the call on Legette. I don't know why I'm like. He has proven it to me right now. Like when people started talking about him, I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. No, I'm not doing it. And then, he keeps doing the same thing. He still keeps doing that giddy up dance in the end zone. I'm still a little leery about it, but I like the call because he has been getting it done. And Bryce Young seems to like him a lot. And, I think that it's a good call, man. I thought you were going to go Xavier Worthy, but I'm, especially with him being 28%. Rostered, that's a good call.
Yeah, Xavier. I feel like at this point, I need to look at Worthy just because he is a rookie in this matchup. But I can't imagine that he's not. Yeah, he's owned in 72% of leagues. That's why I didn't really want him. I was like, he's probably picked up in most leagues, unless at this point, maybe it's an 8-team fantasy league, and at that point, benches are just too deep to need to roster him. But for the most part, I feel like he's going to be picked up in competitive leagues. Other than that, Jalen McMillan, he's another wide receiver that I feel like they might start looking to with all the injuries at the wide receiver position. But other than that, all of them would be a stretch on to realistically hold on your fantasy lineup. The only real RB other than the one Tipp mentioned, I'm trying to find his name real fast. What's his name? The backup RB to the Jets, Braylon Allen. There we go.
Oh yeah,
He would be a very good handcuff and bye week type of person to put in your lineup because he gets snaps, he gets rushes, he gets carries, he gets goal line carries too. I mean, he gets his opportunities to put up fantasy points just like a Tyler Algier somehow finds ways to put up fantasy points. So does Braylon Aller. He finds a way to put up fantasy points, but he's also one of the best handcuffs that you could have next to Jordan Mason to Christian McCaffrey, because as soon as if this is a big if, Brees Hall does happen to get hurt, he becomes one of the premier RBs to own in fantasy because, I mean, he's going to be second to none in volume, touches, carries, catches, and all that good stuff.
I the only disagreement I have is they don't run the ball enough. But now that they are essentially out of the playoffs, you got another year. You technically you have another year with Aaron Rodgers, right? Next year. So why just keep trotting out a 40-year-old quarterback who is losing games? They're not doing anything with them. So yeah, go ahead and run these running backs into the ground and run and see what you have with Braylon Allen. I agree with the call because I want to say no because they just don't run the ball. But this might be a time where they're just like, you know what? Screw what you say, Aaron Rodgers. Joe Douglas is no longer here. Robert Saleh is no longer here. There's the only yes man you still have is Woody, and other than that, this whole team, man, I can't imagine what the locker room must be like. What must feel like. Bringing in Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of a resurgence in this team. But then, from what I heard, what Devontae Adams said that there was no heart, no soul in this locker room when they lost that first game he played, and when they lost that game, he was trying to rally up the guys, and nobody would do or say anything, and he was just like, man, like what's going on, and Aaron Rodgers has really screwed this team big time, man. And really it wasn't even, you can't put all the blame on Aaron Rodgers. You can put a lot of the blame on him, but you got to put the blame on the front office too, because they really just said, well, we want this guy so much, we're going to do anything to get him. And he was sold, Aaron Rodgers sold them a bill of goods, and now they are just bad. They're a bad team. And so, yeah, I like the call because they might just say, you know what, Aaron Rodgers, you're done. We're gonna go ahead and just start running the ball and see what we have in these young in these young running backs. Maybe not Brees Hall, because Brees Hall is their future, right? We think, but maybe Braylon Allen's. Hell, maybe they have a split backfield. They right down the middle going forward. Because these guys are still young, and you hope that they're not going to lose their youth dealing with this, curmudgeon-y old fart that just keeps, just taking the life from these Jets and this Jets fandom.
Yeah, or Brees Hall gets hurt, and you have a phenomenal handcuff. But all right, that's going to wrap up this episode. Tipp, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, Tipp at Tipp Major, 2 P's, TIPP MAJOR on X, Spotify, where I do the show with Nader. Thursday nights, do the Thursday check down with Greg Kellogg. Before that, we also do a question and answer segment at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. No, that's 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. And then the show is at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time for the Thursday check down. And then on Thursday night, we have the Rip and Tip Space. Come check us out there as well. Just working on my article for this week. It's about punt or kickoff returners. That one should be a fun one because in the Scott Fish Bowl, we are gearing up for the playoffs. The playoffs are up on us, so it's going to be fun.
All righty. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. Other than that, hey, good luck, everybody.
ready for alternate through all